Hi everyone, I'm Christy with Stitches by Christy. Today I'm here to talk hardware, bag making hardware. I just got back from a trip to Louisiana where I spent 4 days with Wizardry Stitchery and Crafts. If for those of you who don't know, they sell everything you could need for bag making and more. They sell hardware, zippers, zipper pulls, variegated, they call it sewing string, but variegated thread. They even have vinyls, fabric, pretty much everything. It was fun to be there. We'll just leave it there. So it got me thinking that I'm used to sewing and I know what hardware I need to grab for what bag. I know what all the pieces are for, but not everybody does. So I thought it would be a cool time to take and just go over some of the most used hardwares. You'll always find more, but at least these are the most common ones, and it will give you a good starting point. Okay, so I mentioned the variegated sewing string, and I love that because you can get it in a size to fit every machine that you have. So I have used it. This one is called Fairy Floss, and this one is the Tex 30 that you can use on your serger or your cover stitch. They also have sizes for your domestic machines, for your semi-industrials, for your embroidery machine, for your industrials. They even have one that works for quilting. It's a cotton based. So they're all just really fun. And obviously I did a reverse cover stitch, so it's a thicker stitch, but it's going to look different depending on how you use it. But they're really cool. So I will link to Wizardry down in the bottom of the video. The next thing we'll talk about is zippers. For the sake of bag making, the most commonly used are number 5 and number 3. There's tons of other sizes, but those are the two you're going to use when you're making bags. So the most common will be the number 5, and it has thicker teeth on it. The coils, this one is a nylon zipper. I like nylon coils because you can sew right through the teeth and not worry about breaking your needle. You do have to pay attention when you get zipper tape that you get the right size pulls to go on it. So the number 5 zipper pulls, it's hard to see, sorry, have a bigger pull part, okay, and it fits right on those teeth. There's also number 3, and number 3s are not used quite as much, but they are used on smaller projects like zipper pouches or like your inside pockets on bags. They're just a little smaller, not quite so clunky, but you can absolutely use the number 5s on those too. So you can see these have smaller teeth on them, and then your pull also will be smaller. I'll show you them side by side so you can compare. This one's a number 5 and this one is number 3. So you can see the size difference. And then for the pulls, number 3 on this side and number 5 right here. You can see the size difference on those also. Okay, next we'll talk about magnetic snaps. These are what you would use for a top closure or on a flap. There's several different uses, but those are the two most common. So these are 18mm magnetic snaps in a rainbow finish. So they will come in sets. You'll have a male side and a female side, and then they'll come with washers for the back sides of both. So each of them will have these prongs on the back. You'll cut slits. I use this washer to mark my spots and cut little tiny slits and put that through. And then I like to use like a scrap of vinyl or Peltex, whatever I have just laying around, to put on it just to help keep it from pulling through. It gives it a little more strength. So you'll put the magnet through the fabric, and then your vinyl, Peltex, whatever you put, and then your washer, and you'll close the prongs around the washer. And you'll do that for both sides, the male and the female side. Now there's another option. Sometimes you might be working on something that is hard to top stitch around the magnet, but you still need the magnet. So there are, they're called magnetic rivet snaps, and they have pieces that you have, sorry, I should have had one pulled out. They look the same. You have the male and the female side. But the difference is they just have the post on here that you will set after you do your top stitching, just like you would a rivet. So it's got the rivet head, just like a regular rivet, and then you snap it together and set it like that. So you'll see this on the outside. You'll go through all the layers, or if that's how it works out. It may not work out that way, but you can put it all the way through, and then you'll see that little rivet there. So that's another option. It's a really fun option to have, and they look cute when you finish them. So since I just talked about rivets, you might be asking, what are rivets? Rivets are what you will use to secure, like at the ends of straps, or sometimes I like to put them at the corners of pockets. It just gives some extra strength when you can't really sew extra there for ruining the looks of it. Sometimes, like on straps, you don't want extra sloppy stitching on those. You've taken the time to make a beautiful strap, and you just want it to look professional and finished, so you'll use a rivet in those places. They can also just be used for decorative or whatever you want. But what a rivet is, it's hard to see. See if I can. So it just looks like this. The last rivet end that I showed you on the magnetic snaps, it's basically just two of those that you put together. So you'll pull them apart, and you have the cap. It's just the short one, and then the post side. There's different sizes. You'll see like 8mm by 8mm, or sometimes they're 10mm, whatever they are. The first number will be the head size, and the second number will be the post size. I personally like 8mm by 8mm. It seems to work for just about every project. Sometimes I have to add a little stabilizer just to make it work. So when you use rivets, you'll punch your hole, and when you buy rivets, you can usually get a set that will come with the setting tools. So you'll get a little hole punch. So I like to punch my hole with this, and then you'll stick it through your layers, and you only want it barely peeking through, just enough so that you can put this cap on it. So if it's not thick enough and you try and set it, they will like set crooked, and you'll have to redo it. You don't want that. So what I do is I keep a basket of Peltex and interfacing and stuff here. I just cut a tiny little piece of Peltex, just a little square, and poke a hole through that, and just kind of build up in between to where it's so small that you won't see it peeking out the sides or anything, and just build that up in between. So then you'll put, like if you're doing a strap, you'll have your holes through the 2 layers of the strap. So poke this through one layer, then put your Peltex in there, and then your other layer, and then put your cap right on top, and then you'll set it. So to set it, it will also come with, you can get a kit, I guess. It won't come with everyone, but it will come with, this goes on the bottom, and you can see the hole in there. So you'll set it, and you'll put your rivet right in that hole, just like that. And then you can either use like a rubber mallet or a small like jewelry hammer. You can, if you want to spend the money, there's like presses, rivet presses that you can get. I personally use an arbor press. It was a cheaper alternative, and I can just use the setting tools that come with it. I don't have to buy extra dies or anything like that. So that's the way I go. So you'll just put this right on top of here, and then you just push it down, and it's easy. As long as you have it in the tools properly, setting properly, and you have your layers thick enough, it should press just perfectly. Okay, another option if you don't like rivets is, it's called a Chicago screw. They work the same as rivets do. Sorry, all I have here are Castle ones to show you. I don't use Chicago screws all that often. I really prefer the rivets, but these are a fun alternative. So what they are is they have the post, but it's a thicker post, and it has a screw screwed into the back of it, so that it looks like this, and then a little screw there. Sorry, I know it's kind of blurry. So you'll just use a little screwdriver. I like to put a dab of glue inside here before I screw it back in, just so it doesn't work its way loose. And again, you have to build up your layers to make sure that it's thick enough to fit, because even getting this as tight as you possibly can, there's still quite a bit of space in there. So you have to make sure that your straps or wherever you're putting it is built up. You can use Peltex or whatever you want to do. So that is another alternative to the rivets. Okay, while we're on closure type of things, spring snaps are another thing that I use a lot. There are also like cam snaps, which are the plastic ones. I don't use those that often. I love spring snaps. So what they are, let me get out a set here. They, I like to use them on like purse pals, anything that has like a tab on it, basically, that I need to just snap close really quick. So there's 4 pieces to one set. So one side will get this flat cap, and that's what will be the top part of your snap that you will see from the outside. We'll just use a purse pal, for example. So when you set that, it will get this little spring side, and it just sets right over like that. And the ones I have came with setting tools and instructions on how to use it. They're super simple. Again, I use my arbor press just to press it down. Super fast and easy. And I know I was intimidated by spring snaps at first, and now I feel silly that I was, because they are not hard to use at all. You can, if you have a thinner vinyl that maybe feel like might have a little bit of stretch, that you're worried about it pulling the snap out when you unsnap it, just put a little bit of Peltex, or really anything, a scrap of interfacing, whatever you have behind it that nobody will ever see. So then again, on the purse pal, on the body of it, this is the one you will use. It has this post piece, it just looks like that on the bottom, and there's another setting tool piece that, you know, that fits perfectly over. And then so you'll poke that through your vinyl or fabric, whatever you're using, and then it gets this little cap that goes right on top. These are hard to see, I'm sorry. And then again, you'll use a setting tool and just crunch it down. Same thing, you can use the Peltex on that, whatever you need to do to make it secure. I don't have to use Peltex very often. Most of my vinyls seem like they're secure enough, so it's not a big deal, really. But if you need to, it's there. So those will just crunch down, and that's easy as can be. Okay, I've got 2 more that are kind of those extra fancy touches that just make you smile, you know? And then I will move on to the really common hardware that we use. So the first one is purse feet. These come in 2 styles that I know of, maybe more, but there are ones that screw in just like the Chicago screws that I just showed you. And then the ones like this, which are the ones I prefer, I don't know, they have prongs on them. And these prongs just kind of pull apart. I don't know if you can see that, I've got my thumbnail in between it, but they pull apart. So you'll poke your hole into the bottom of your purse, and then poke the purse feet up through, if you have Peltex or whatever in the bottom, poke it through all of your layers, not your lining, but just through your outside pieces. And then you'll, these also come with washers, just like the magnetic snaps do. So you'll poke it through the center hole and then pull the prongs apart over top and smash it as flat as you can, just so they don't wiggle loose. Again, add Peltex. You can sometimes I'll cover them depending on what type of fabric I'm using for the lining or whatever. I'll cover it with like a piece of tape or something just so it doesn't poke through. Typically you don't need to do that though. So that is purse feet. And like I said, I don't use the Chicago screw style ones, so I don't have any of those to show you. I'm sorry, but these are fun, and they just add that extra touch to your bag. Okay, and the last like fun extra thing that I've got, these are not necessary at all, but sometimes it just, you know, it makes your bags extra fun. They look a little bit higher class, more professional, and they are strap-ins. So there's a couple different kinds. These are the ones I like. There's some that you can clamp down, and I will use those. They are cheaper. That kind is cheaper. So if you just want a cheaper alternative that will still look pretty, but won't break the bank, because most bags are going to take more than one, 4 usually. But so these, they kind of, I don't know if you can see that, they kind of just slide onto the end of your strap. You know, if you do a vinyl strap, a fabric strap, you don't really need these because you can fold fabric ends in easy and they won't get too bulky. But if you're doing vinyl, you can't really do that because then it ends up so thick that you can't sew through it. And it's kind of a nightmare. Yes. So you use these strap ends, and I like to use a little bit of like super glue, or sometimes just fabric glue is enough, just something that will kind of hold it in place. So I'll put a little bit of glue on the end of my strap and then slide this on. And then these will come, you can get them in whatever size you need. These are 1 inch. That's my most typical use size, but I have 1.5, I've got 3/4 inch. You can get them in just about every size. And then they'll also come, I'm not going to take these out of the package because they're so tiny and I always drop them, but they come with tiny little screws, really tiny screws, and then you'll just use a little screwdriver to get them in. And I also like to put a little drop of glue in both of the screw holes before I put the screws in, and just screw it as tight as you possibly can, and that's it. So those are a fun option too. All right, so now we are going to move on to items that are commonly used on your straps. The most common one is going to be a rectangle ring. These will be what you use to connect your straps into your bag, like that. Okay, they come in all different sizes, different finishes. I have rainbow, rose gold, gunmetal, all of them. They're fun. So those are going to be the most common. We also have D-rings. Sure, you can figure out why. These are good when you use something that has like a removable strap, so that it can kind of slide around and not twist funny. So again, they come in all the sizes, all the finishes. I use these like on wristlets, so my wristlet strap will like clamp onto it. I put a clip on the end of that. Speaking of clips, that is what a swivel clip is. So when you make like your wristlet strap, you'll have the strap connector on here and then your wristlet strap on there, and then it can move freely. Okay, these come in different styles. This is just kind of a standard one, but 1 inch, they'll come in all the sizes, and it will be this part here. And they're used quite frequently on wristlet straps, crossbody straps, everything. For strap connectors, there are also different types you can use. This one is one of my favorites to use. It's a triangle strap connector. Okay, so this is the same way. You'll use a piece of vinyl or fabric, however you want, to make your little strap connector to go through the bottom there. And then the same thing, your swivel clip will hook in the top, just like that. These are the ones that I use the most. I love the look of them. They're easy to use. And then there are also, you can go fancy with them. There are tons of shaped ones. There's tons out there, and I obviously am not going to have them all. But if you want to go extra with them, you can get shaped ones like this. And these, again, you'll get your connector piece of fabric through there, and then your swivel clip will clip onto here. So same thing. These are really fun and really make a statement. Sometimes they're hard to sew in, so sometimes you have to change around the way that you sew things. If the part where these go is a little bit narrower, what I like to do is sew up to that point, but leave an opening where this would go, and then either go ahead and turn your bag and tuck those edges in, like if it's at the top of a strap part right there, you know what I'm saying? Leave that and then tuck those edges in and put this in from the top and sew it in. I also will just leave that open and then reach up underneath my bag and poke it up after I've sewn the majority of it, and then just sew across the top part. And then when you flip it, it'll pull out the right way. So these, the fancier ones, might be ones you'll have to play around with, but once you figure it out, they're really cool. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. Like I said, there is so much hardware out there that I couldn't possibly show you all of it, but these are the most commonly used ones. So if you have any questions, just ask in the comments, and I'll do my best to talk you through it, help you figure out what they all are. So thank you all for joining me again today. Bye.